I want to open this up to questions. I just love listening to you guys talk about this play. Questions? Anybody out there? Oh, yeah, it's all clear to you? Yeah. Yes, lovely and talented Ellen Dale.
Is there going to be a real bear?
This play contains what is considered to be his only stage direction that he actually wrote, Shakespeare, which is Exit, Pursued by a Bear. And our students did a production of this play this year that Elizabeth Carter, I think, was director of. And the bear was brilliant. It came through, it was a 7-foot, like a kid's bear, stuffed bear. And it came through the middle of this thing. And someone was holding in the back and went, "Argh!" And the person went up to it and it just struggled the person down to the ground. And then they dragged the person to the stage. It was so brilliant. Now, how's your going to be?
I know! It's not going to be better than that. I don't think it can anything be better than that. I will say nobody will be mauled. And like in Peter Pan, when he says clap if you believe in fairies, we will have a bear and we will invite everyone to clap if they believe. So if you do, then it will be the real bear.
That was like a lawyer's answer.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
I could say something a little more fair if that's fair, but I think there will be a bear, I should say.
Yeah. Who's in the show?
So we have so we started with the team from Spunk, the core team from Spunk that we fell in love with, and we said, yes, we want to continue to play together. So we have L. Peter Callender.
Playing Leontes.
Playing Leontes. And there's doubling, so I'll just talk about their first primary character, but I won't tell you who else they play. We have Margot Hall, who's playing Paulina. We have Amaze, who's playing Hermione. Tai is playing Camillo. Aldo is playing Polixenes. And then, I think those are Spunk 5. And then we have a woman named Tristan, who is playing Perdita.
And she's a juggler.
And she's a juggler. I actually saw her in a show, in the Tenderloin show at Cutting Ball Theater last summer when I was here, and just fell in love with her. And then she came in, and not only was she a great actress, but she had all of these other skills. And we're doing this in a very theatrical way. So the fact that she can juggle, and Tai, who plays Florizel, we shared our skills. And when she juggled, and he wants to juggle, you saw Tai fall in love with Tristan, and as you see, I think in many ways, Florizel fall in love with Perdita. Anyhow, and then we have Christopher Michael Rivera, who's playing Autolycus. And all of them played multiple characters. They all play at least 2 characters, but those are...
2 young women who are alternating
exactly.
as one of the gals in Bohemia, one of the gals in Cecilia, and then 2 young boys who alternate as the Prince Mamilius.
Yes, exactly.
In Cecilia.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Another question. Yes?
I'd like to hear a little bit more about your choreography. Do you incorporate any of it as actual dance, or is it all in the movements of the characters?
So there are some actual dance, but there's some movement that's sort of choreographed longer structures that people might do in groups or as individuals. That definitely happens in the prologue, because as this group of storytellers, they're kind of enlivening the space to say, here we've come to tell this tale to you. And then within the play itself, there's a festival, and the festival will incorporate a lot of sort of larger group movement structures. And then within the course of the play, depending on what is called for, we've gotten through the first half really heavily staged. We'll be doing some more work that might be more, that I think is a little less about large group choreographed structures and a little bit more about enlivening what is happening to that character at the time. That might be more than just an internalized movement feeling that happens as movement through space, but might be considered less of a dance.
And I'll say, in our, one of the things I love about having Paloma is I learned so much about, we learn language together. So there are times where she'll say, is this a number? And so I think a number is, I think, what we would consider like we would consider dance in a way that we recognize, but also one of the companies Paloma works with, Dance Exchange, and coming from Liz Lerman, the choreographer, talks about spontaneous gesture. So that in a certain way, what I'm doing right now, this gesture, this movement, is a dance unto itself. So it's not what we call numbers, but it's a kind of movement dance as well. So we have numbers, and then we have other movement in it.
Yeah, I'm just so thrilled about this and like seeing, do you remember in Romeo and Juliet, there's a section in the second half when she decides she's going to kill herself and the friar tells her to take the poison and she goes back home and she does this dance movement, she's like a steed going through and she just does this like writhing thing, like this child just ready to take it on. And I just thought every night that there's this amazing capacity. I mean, I'm so struck in my 13th year about Shakespeare's capacity to incorporate so much of the body, the human. You know, I'm becoming less and less just personally interested, which is to say that I don't want other artists to be interested in the technical accumulations inside of Shakespeare, as much as I am in how much the body can activate. And I meant the mouth, the mind, the heart, the hand, that every gesture, that all that feels endless. And that feels never wrong to me. Like I think, oh, we can always afford it. It won't break down. And it's where you really love theater. You know, if you come away humming the sets only, not so much, right? I mean, at least for me. I grew up in like design land. I went to Yale. It's like everything's shiny colors and design, and I've just become less interested. So I love, even though we do have design, that the body is the teller. Anyway, I keep talking, and someone else had a question. Someone raised their hand. No? Yes.
So when you're doing the second circle, do you ever do like something does? In other words, do you like in other motions? Would you ask them to?
So I'll tell you a little bit about that part. So we identified the verbs that feel most powerful with any given speech they may give or on a particular page of the script. And then I give them 4 prompts. I ask them to really, like, as they meditate on this word, think about where that word hits them in their bodies. Like, where does that word originate? What's the origin? What's the motor of that word in the body? In what direction does it feel like it moves? Is this a verb that moves outward or moves inward? Does it move from low to high or high to low? Then I ask, with what speed? Is it slow and then fast? Is it fast and then slow? Is it one speed only, or is it all slow? And then I ask them to embody what the duration is. Is it a fast thing that's over before you know it? Is it something that feels like it lingers even after you seem like you've stopped moving? Is it something in between those things? And so we go through those prompts with each of the verbs, and there's a sort of discovery process that happens as part of it, and then there's a settling in, and as they're doing it, I reflect back to them what I'm seeing. And it's been really wonderful to work in this way, because then I get to work with one person at a time and see them make discoveries about what their character is saying or who their character is by having to enact in the body a particular moment that character goes through. So it really gives, there are so many discoveries that come up because they've animated something that they might not have gotten to had they only animated their mouths.
You know who works, thank you. You know who works in the way that you described or you asked about, to an extent, is Shauna Cooper, who did Romeo and Juliet. She has a process called the essence, her essence process, where she actually gets the actors to tell any aspect of their character's story through movement. Again, in other words, and it's with no language. There's no rule except one: you cannot use language. It only has to be through movement. And her work is both to personalize it and also to cull information. and to see what can be put into the play that helps expand the vocabulary of storytelling. So that's more akin to what you're talking about. This is a different, slightly different process, right? Yeah, that's totally
And we
interesting.
used it to animate a particular scene. That when we worked on the courtroom scene, we really had them create sort of phrases of their argument and deliver them strictly with movement and find out what proximity, who their alignments were, move themselves in space according to how much their argument needed to impact that person. And I think it helped us discover some things about what that scene means, not just us on the outside, but also for the actors themselves to have a sense of what their character feels and needs and wants and has to offer in that moment.
Stephanie, you had a question?
Can you talk about the music a little?
Yeah.
Yes, the question is about the music. What's up with the music?
So, we have both a composer and sound designer, which is wonderful to work with both of those folks. The composer, Elton, is creating, for me, so we have the players who come out of the camper, and as they sing us into the world, to me, I think they go up that swirling pathway, that spiral up, and as they sing us up in the world, there's a song that's not in Shakespeare's Winter's Tale, that's actually something that we've all created together, and within the sonic vocabulary of that world is all the sound, to a certain degree, all of the layers of sound that you will hear in the entire play. So it's like opening up and seeing the entire palette. And then as we go through, there are some characters who have their own motif. So for example, Leontes, I believe something is physically happening to Leontes when he is going through these fits of jealousy and these rages. So there's sound composition that actually reflects the chamber of his heart, that actually reflects the tightening of his voice. So we have a Leontes composed motif. There's a motif that's Paulinus, that's the kind of very percussive, very forward-moving staccato, speak truth to power. And then there's elements that are like in the festival, when we're in Bohemia, and we have music that in that, actually, one of the strings that we played with there is like Zydeco music that you might associate with New Orleans style music. So when you hear the first song, the player's song I call it, the prologue intro song, you'll hear a little bit of Zydeco, you may hear a little bit of that Leontes heartbeat, and you might hear a little bit of the sound that to me is a very natural sound when this act of forgiveness or these acts of forgiveness happen. To me, there's something that's about the wind. What is the sound of the wind? And starlight, and a deep exhale. That, to me, when you're not forgiving, you're holding your breath, you're holding on, you're holding it tight. And when you finally forgive, you go, I'm going to let it go. So Elton has composed something that, to me, reflects that long release that forgiveness really is about. And all of those elements are parts of those elements, actually all of those elements in part are in that original scene. And then Will, who is our sound designer, is creating things like the storm when they get to Bohemia, or, so he's creating the oral world that is, the crickets, the storm, the baby crying, the crowd. And then there are places where those interact, where the internal or emotional world, which is often what I think that Elton's creating in the compositions, and the external world collide or meet. So, yeah.
There's so much, as you can see, that is being embodied. The body, the music and movement and language and faith, religion, whatever you believe in that. Afrofuturism, which is defining a future that involves, through science fiction and fantasy, a new kind of world order that creates new voices, that comes from all forms of artistry. That has informed your work. And it's an eye-opener. First of all, I'm dying to have Peter Callender play Leontes, because we kind of can be that way sometimes. want to put it to good use. And he's just become such a beautiful performer. So, seeing his work as he matures and seeing like Jimmy Carpenter's work, who is growing to be one of the best like character actors. A young leading man who has become a brilliant character actor. Even if he plays a lead again. I mean, isn't that wonderful to see that? And to continue to grow with the two of you. It's very moving to me as an artistic director. I feel like this is just another production. And we're giving Shakespeare as many gifts as he's given us. So I hope all this stuff feeds into your experience. There is going to be more audience participation, more Triangle Lab stuff than there was in any other show this season. This is where we're putting most of our time and energy, which is going to just make this play, I think, come alive 2 hours before and as you leave and go down the path. So I want to thank Patricia and Paloma and all of you for your